Study Section 10. Physical, cognitive, and social emotional development in late childhood, 9 to 12. Children often come with surprises and shocks to everyone at this stage of life. They believe that they are getting into freedom of everything. Between ages 9 and 12 is termed puberty, refers to a stage of biological maturation where a boy or girl becomes capable of reproduction. Introduction. In the preceding studies before this particular one, you should have been enlightened about prenatal development and birth of a child, the neonatal development of a child, cognitive, social emotional development in infancy, and finally, here as a conclusion, focus will be on the physical, cognitive, and social emotional development in late childhood. That is, as these forms of development apply to children between the ages of 9 to 12. Physical development. This is a combination of previous topics, but now in the late childhood age, between ages 9 and 12, just before they become teenagers. Learning outcomes for study section 10. At the end of this study session, you should be able to 1. Discuss physical development in late childhood. 2. Explain cognitive development in late childhood. 3. Explain social emotional development in late childhood. And 4. Discuss implications of this development on sexuality. In the years from 9 to 12, most children will begin a rapid phase of transition from childhood to adolescence. The term puberty refers to a stage of biological maturation where a boy or girl becomes capable of reproduction. For some children, noticeable changes do not begin to occur until age 13 or in rare cases until age 14 or later. On average, girls will begin puberty at age 10 or 11 and boys will begin at age 11 or 12. There are a number of noticeable physical signs that a boy or girl has begun puberty. Overall physical growth will accelerate with some boys and girls growing several inches taller per year. For girls, these changes include breast development, the appearance of hair in the genital, pubic, and underarm areas. The sweat glands in the genital and underarm areas become active. This is also the time when most girls will start to experience menstruation. See below. A girl's internal reproductive organs, ovaries, uterus, and vagina grow rapidly during puberty. The external genitalia, clitoris, labia will also increase in size. The average age of first menstruation for girls living in North America is about 12 and a half years, but it is quite normal if a girl has her first menstruation several years before she reaches the age of 12, or if she has her first menstruation several years afterward. A boy going through puberty will experience erections much more frequently than he did in the past. Puberty is typically the time where the nature and the frequency of masturbation in both boys and girls change compared to what obtained in earlier childhood. The focus of masturbation becomes geared toward pleasure and orgasm. Many girls and boys who did not masturbate earlier in their lives will begin to do so during puberty. While nearly all adolescents will experiment with some form of masturbation, some will masturbate regularly and some will do so infrequently or not at all. Unless an adolescent is masturbates so frequently that it interferes with basic aspects of his or her life, e.g. school, family, and social life, it does not cause physical or psychological harm. It is important for parents and educators to make sure those children are fully aware of what changes to expect when puberty begins well before the changes actually begin to occur. After a long period of gradual and predictable growth, during puberty, a young person's body begins growing very quickly and in very different ways than it did before. These changes can be confusing and traumatic, particularly if a boy or girl does know they are coming. The first major step a parent or educator can take in assisting a young person through puberty is to make them fully aware of the changes that will occur. Not only should boys and girls be fully aware of the changes that will occur in their own bodies, but they should also be provided with opportunities to learn about the changes that occur in the opposite sex. Cognitive development in late childhood. Conservation or liquid conservation is the principle that the physical properties of an object remain the same despite changes in its appearance. In the text of conservation pictured, the child was first asked to compare identical amounts of liquid in the two shot glasses. Then liquid from the late glass was poured into the taller, thinner glass. Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget believed that the ability to understand conservation marks an important developmental milestone for children. Corbis and Dwight, 2006. It is no accident that throughout most of the world, children begin formal education at age 6 or 7. The intellectual skills of late childhood are well suited for school. Children become capable of reasoning logically and systematically, whether about a lunar ellipse, chess, or the motives of story characters. Their thinking is also more fluid and flexible. 1. A great scholar can follow a line of reasoning, say, solving an equation and realizing that an error has been made, mentally reverse course and start from the beginning again. A grasp of logical principles helps older children readily understand science, math, and many other subjects. They can concentrate better and longer than before. 2. Learning to read Chinese. A 7-year-old girl receives help from her mother as she learns to read Chinese. Reading ability, vocabulary, and grammar skills improve greatly during a child's elementary school years. Corbis Dwight, 2006. 3. Older children also begin to master and enjoy their intellect. They become more consciously aware of their mental processes, such as what it takes to memorize a spelling list or remember a specific past event, and can deliberately enlist their cognitive powers to accomplish their goals. For example, they enlist memory strategies that strengthen their recall of experiences and information. 4. Older children seem to think more quickly than younger children and many adults because they know how to do so. They spontaneously monitor and evaluate their progress and thus correct and improve their work. They are more likely to use external aids such as writing things down to help them think. These qualities make older children more capable and motivated learners. 5. Elementary school classroom. Students in an elementary school classroom raise their hands to answer a teacher's question. Participation in classroom activities helps children develop the social, intellectual, and cultural skills they need to function in society. Denning, 2006. 6. Many other cognitive skills also improve. Reading and mathematical abilities to skills advance significantly along with vocabulary and grammatical skills. Many children begin to learn a second language in late childhood. Children's knowledge of many specific topics that interest them expands dramatically, whether of planets, dinosaurs, or rock stars. Capacities to read music and master a musical instrument grows significantly. 7. Although Children at this stage are still rather concrete thinkers, that is, abstractions and hypothetical issues are hard for them to understand. They have the intellectual skills to function competently in the adult world. The cognitive achievements of late childhood both contribute to school success and are, in part, a result of schooling. Effective classroom instruction strengthens children's capacity for logical, objective reasoning through well-designed activities that promote active learning. Children also benefit from group projects as peers sharpen each other's intellectual skills. However, intellectual growth in late childhood is not just a result of the growth of the mind in combination with classroom practices. Parental support is another crucial ingredient. Because learning is more formalized in late childhood, achievement is evaluated more objectively and publicly. School children receive formal and informal evaluations of their work in the classroom and in school-wide achievement testing. Consequently, children quickly learn how their abilities measure up with their peers and with teacher expectations. In comparing themselves to their peers, older children develop a more balanced view of their intellectual strengths and weaknesses. These self-evaluations tend to make older children less confident and more self-critical, causing some of them to give up too early when faced with intellectual tests that are challenging but within their reach. The biological aspect of puberty, while certainly profound, only tell half of the story. Social-emotional development in late childhood. The emotional psychological aspects of puberty, many of which are linked to biological maturation, e.g., increases in testosterone, are equally significant, particularly as they relate to sexuality. As they go through puberty, it is typical for young people to develop a heightened, at times seemingly obsessive, preoccupation with their physical appearance. Anxiety over physical appearance can lead to feelings of inadequacy. Relationships with peers are also likely to change. In the years leading up to puberty, there is a tendency for children to interact mostly with same-sex peers. However, as youth approach the teen years, they begin to increase social interaction with the opposite sex. Socially, youth entering puberty will be taking more pronounced steps into adult gender roles, and in so doing, they may begin dating or, more likely in their words, hanging out or going with or go together. Sexuality in late childhood. For most young people, it is likely that the basis of their sexual orientation will have been formed well before puberty. However, as youth begin to experience the more direct sexual attraction and fantasy that accompany puberty, lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth are likely to become more concretely aware of their sexual orientation. In other words, these youth are at the time in their lives where their homosexual or bisexual orientation is leading them to the developmental task of establishing to themselves and perhaps to others a self-identity as gay, lesbian, or bisexual. This may cause added stress to the experience of puberty for homosexual and bisexual youths. It is also not uncommon for heterosexual youth, particularly in early adolescence, to have some same-gender sexual attractions or fantasies. This is not unusual, and such attractions should be not seen as necessarily indicative of a youth's sexual orientation. In some parts of the world, most youth in the 9 to 12 age groups may not have experienced sexual intercourse. By the age of 14, about 30% of males and 20% of females will have had sexual intercourse at least once. These figures on the age of first intercourse among youth are important for parents, caregivers, and educators to consider because they clearly point to the need for youth in the 9 to 12 age groups to receive broadly based sexual health education. More importantly, since approximately a quarter of youth do have intercourse by the time they are 14, it is vital that those youth who do become sexually active at this point are fully educated and equipped to protect themselves against unintended pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. As children enter puberty, they enter a period of heightened sexuality. Nearly all youth at this phase of development are preoccupied to some extent with sexuality. As a result, 9 to 12 is a critical period for the provision of sexual health education. Development outcomes. 1. Physical changes associated with puberty. 2. Psychological, social changes associated with puberty. 3. Full understanding of rights and responsibilities related to sexuality and relationships. Common behaviors. 1. Dating, that is, going with. 2. Physical intimacy, kissing, petting. 3. Masturbation. 4. Preoccupation with sexuality, e.g., frequently makes references to sexuality. 5. Interest in social media. 6. Concerns. 7. Premature initiation of adult sexual activity. 8. Difficulty adjusting to homosexual or bisexual orientation. 9. Difficulty with body image. 10. Difficulty with social skills. 11. Learning objectives. 12. Complete knowledge of the physical and psychological aspect of puberty. 13. Broadly based sexual health education, including delay of first intercourse and contraception, safer sex. 14. Social skills education related to rights and responsibilities in relationships and mutually satisfying interpersonal relationships. 15. Development of media literacy skills to understand, interpret, and evaluate media sexuality messages and imagery. Study Section 10 Summary. At the end of this study session, you have learned that 1. In the years from 9 to 12, most children will begin a rapid phase of transition from childhood to adolescence. The term puberty refers to a stage of biological maturation where a boy or girl becomes capable of reproduction. Although some children will begin the changes of puberty before age 9, most will begin the process of rapid growth and physical changes in the years between 9 and 12. 2. Conservation or liquid conservation is the principle that the physical properties of an object remain the same despite changes in its appearance. In the test of conservation pictured, the child was first asked to compare identical amount of liquid in the two shot glasses. Then, liquid from the late glass was poured into the taller, thinner glass. 3. The biological aspect of puberty, while certainly profound, only tell half of the story. The emotional psychological aspect of puberty, many of which are linked to biological maturation, e.g., increases in testosterone, are equally significant, particularly as they relate to sexuality. As they go through puberty, it is typical for young people to develop a heightened, at times seemingly obsessive, preoccupation with their physical appearance. 4. For most young people, it is likely that the basis of their sexual orientation will have been formed well before puberty. However, as youth begin to experience the more direct sexual attraction and fantasy that accompany puberty, lesbian, gay, and bisexual youth are likely to become more concretely aware of their sexual orientation. This is the end of GCE 107. Thanks for listening.